Take a look at this demo I have here. So when you hover on this section, you can see how the image transforms. If you hover here, same thing. Hover here, and hover here, same thing. And I can even play around with it like this. Now this was done with just CSS. There was no JavaScript involved. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to do this. And you'll be learning a couple of CSS tips. Alright, so here we have this image. Currently, if I'm hovering, nothing is happening. And this is the code for it here. I have this div with a class of image cover. And I have this image here, which is pointing to my responsive CSS website. By the way, on this website, I collate different CSS tips that can help you easily achieve responsive layout. You can check it out. Now, if you wanted to achieve those hover transforms I showed you at the beginning, you could use JavaScript to check when the mouse is here, do this, when the mouse is here, do this, when the mouse is here, do this. With JavaScript, you can probably even do more advanced stuff, but you can also do something similar with CSS, and this is where the trick is. So here you can see that I have like 6 divs that comes before this img tag, and I'll show you why they come before this img tag. Now, the idea here is that when you hover on this div, we transform the image in a specific way. When you hover on the second div, we transform the image in a specific way. When you hover on the last div, we transform the image in a specific way. So that's why I have all of these divs here. Now let's go to the code part. I commented some of the code here, and we'll be uncommenting the code as we move along. So firstly, this is the styles that we have for the image cover: a width, margin, aspect ratio, display, margin bottom. All of that is fine. And now for the img, we have this here. Now I have this rotate y custom property and rotate x custom property, and I use these custom properties for flexibility, which I will show you as we progress. So here I can now use this transform property, and for this transform, we say perspective 600 pixels, rotate y, we pass the rotate y custom property, rotate x, and we pass the custom rotate x property. Currently the rotate y is 0 degree and rotate x is 0 degrees, but let's say the rotate y is 10 degrees and the rotate x is 10 degrees. Look at what the image looks like now. If I should make this perspective 200 pixels, that will make the angle even more obvious, and if I should make this a big value like 2000 pixels, then it's not really obvious. So let's stick at 600 pixels. But let's take this back to 0 degrees, because by default we want the rotate y and rotate x to be 0 degrees. Now for our spots, remember all of these divs with a class of spots that comes before, we're going to do some styling to those boxes. So first we have a width where we say 100% divide by 3, so that way we can have 3 columns where all of the spots have the same equal width. For the height, we're going to have 100% divide by 2, so that way we can have the boxes filling up 2 rows accordingly. And now if I should give this a background color of light coral, this is what we have here. You see that we have all of the divs before the image shows here. But if I put display of inline block, because by default divs have a display of block. Now by putting inline block, we're going to have the divs inline, but then we want 2 rows and we want 3 columns. But here we have 2 columns and 3 rows, and that is because of some of this extra space. But don't worry about that for now. Here we can now do position absolute for the spot, so that the spot does not affect the image. If I should come to this image cover and let's just say I put a border of 1 pixel solid white. Oh, let me remove this absolute for now. So what you see is that the image cover becomes taller because all of these spots are occupying some space. But when I put position absolute, now those spots are not going to affect the other items. If you want to learn more about position absolute, I'll leave a link in video description. You can check it out. Okay, now I have this spot showing here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select each of the spots. So for the first spot, I'm going to have a top of 0 and a left of 0. So that means the spot can stay here, top 0, left 0. For the second spot, I'm going to put a top of 0 and a left of 100% divided by 3. If you remember, the width of each spot is 100% divided by 3. So by doing left of 100% divided by 3, it means that this second spot is now going to have a left of maybe from here to this point, and then the second spot can start somewhere here. Don't worry, we'll see that visually in a second. For the third spot, I have top 0, right 0, so it stays at the corner here. For the fourth spot, I have bottom 0, left 0, so it stays at the bottom here. For the fifth spot, I have bottom 0 and left 100% divided by 3, so that it can stay at the middle. And for the sixth spot, I have a bottom of 0 and a right of 0. Now when we come here and refresh, you can see that the spot fills the screen, and that is because we haven't yet created a boundary for the absolute element. So if I should come to this image cover and now put a position of relative, that means this image cover is going to serve as the boundary for all of the spots. And now if I should refresh this, we don't see the spots, and the reason why we don't see the spots is because the spots are currently at the back of the image. Now when you use the transform property, you are creating a new stacking context, and by creating a new stacking context, it also affects the Z index order. So if I should remove this transform from the image, you can see that we have our spots in front of the image, but by applying these transforms, we have created a new stacking context. So that is why the image comes in front of the spots. So here, if I should put a Z index of 1 now, the spots can now come in front of the image. I also have a simplified video on stacking context. I recommend that you check it out. I'll leave a link in the video description so you can learn more about what stacking context is. Okay, now we have all of the spots in front of the image, which is what we want. But then I'm going to remove the background color from these spots. So now you can imagine that the spots are still there, but we just cannot see them visually because they do not have a background color. Or let me even put a background color on each of the spots. So for this first spot, I put that background color, which is a bit of a transparent color, and I'm going to do that for the remaining spots. So I have all of these transparent background colors. So now we can see the spot. So this is the first spot, second spot, third spot, fourth spot, fifth spot, and sixth spot. Now the next trick is that when you hover on the first spot, we are going to transform the image in a certain way. If you hover on the second spot, we transform the image in a certain way. And how do we do that? This is where we use the sibling combinator. So here we're saying that when you hover on the first spot, select the image sibling. What is an image sibling? If we come back to our DOM structure here, because this image comes after all these divs, it means that this image is a sibling of this div. This image is also a sibling of this div, also of this div, of the remaining divs. And by using this sibling combinator, it means that we can select the image element when you hover on this first spot. If we should do something like this, it's going to select the img element that is a child of this spot, but we don't want to select the child of the spot, we want to select the sibling. I also have a video on combinators in CSS, a simplified one. There's a lot of stuff you can do with combinators. I'll leave a link in the video description, you can also check it out. So when you select the img, what are we going to do? Well, if you remember earlier, we set this custom rotate Y and custom rotate X property. So here we can now update those custom properties. Let me comment this line for now. Let me show you how the thing normally works. So if we have a rotate X of 10 degrees, let's just keep this for now. Now if I should refresh, if we hover on the first spot, you can see how when we hover on the first spot, you see how the image is transformed, right? Okay, maybe you cannot see it with these background colors. So let me turn off all the background colors. I'm going to turn off everything except the first background color. So that's for the first spot. So with this first spot, when you hover on it, you can see how the image transforms, right? So here I can say rotate X 10 degrees, and then I can say rotate Y minus 10 degrees. Sorry, rotate Y. Now if I should refresh, what you notice here is that when you hover on the first spot, the image now transforms based on those degrees. Now you can set your own rotation degrees depending on what you want to achieve, but here we have this, right? But I don't want to hard code these values. Instead, I want to do this. So if we go back to the top here on image cover, I set a default rotate of 20 degrees. I do it like this so that we can easily change the degree from one place. I love using custom properties a lot, and I even have a video on CSS custom properties. I'll link it below. You can also check it out. What we're now saying is that when you hover on the first child, the img should have a rotate X custom property with the default rotate, which is 20 degrees. And then for the rotate Y, we use calculation to multiply the default rotate by -1. So that means here we're going to have 20 degrees, and here we're going to have -20 degrees. And now if I should come back here and I refresh, you see we have the same thing. Another thing I want to do is to add a transition on my transform so that my transform is much more smoother. So now look, now we have this even smoother. Okay, now that we have this for the first spot, I'm now going to repeat this for the other spot. So I'm going to comment the background color of the first spot, and I'm going to have the background color for the second spot, which is this. So here I'm going to say when you hover on the second spot, select the img element again. Now the rotate X should have the default rotate, which is 20 degrees. On the rotate Y should have 0 degrees. Now if I should refresh, if we hover on the first spot, remember the first spot is there, it just doesn't have a background color. But if I hover on the second spot, you can see what we have here. We have this rotate Y 0 degrees, rotate X 20 degrees. Now I'm going to turn off this background color, and I'm going to repeat the same idea for the remaining spots. So for the third spot, we're going to have a rotate X of 20 degrees and a rotate Y of 20 degrees, which is our default rotate. For the fourth spot, when you hover on it, we're going to have the rotate X as minus 20 degrees and rotate Y as minus 20 degrees. For the fifth spot, we're going to have a rotate X custom property of minus 20 degrees and a rotate Y of 0 degrees. And for the sixth spot, we're going to have a rotate X of minus 20 degrees and a rotate Y of 20 degrees. Now I can refresh this. Remember, all our spots are there, we just don't see them because they don't have background colors. And now if I should hover here, we have this, and this. And now I can turn off the background or the border for this image cover. And now we have something as simple as this, where we have all of this rotation. As you can see, there is no JavaScript involved. All we have done here is create invisible boxes such that when we are hovering on those boxes, then we can transform the img element, because the img element is a sibling of those boxes. Now you can even go advanced and even make these 9 spots such that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then when you hover on each spot, you can transform the image in different ways. You can go very crazy with this, but the beauty of this here is that we didn't use any JavaScript. This was all CSS stuff. We used the sibling combinator, we used the transform property with a lot of custom properties to have this interaction. Now I can simply come here and change this default rotate to 30 degrees, and now I'm going to have even something as crazy as this. So this is why I love custom properties. They're just like variables. They're actually variables. By using a variable here, I can change that value in one place and everything works accordingly. Well, I hope you enjoyed this CSS demo. Like I said, you can check out the website responsivecss.dev for responsive CSS tips, and I have more CSS demos on my channel. You should see some of them on the screen. You can check out any of them, and please give this video a like, share with others, and subscribe for more CSS tips or CSS demos like this.